Hello and welcome to the Vidoes Corner. I'm your host Martin, also known as Falcon1, and today I talk about editing with JazzsVids. Thank you for being here today. Hello.
Hey, good to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to have you. Also because you are a big personality in the AMV community, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah.
It's because I've been here for a long time now.
You started in 2009, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's like when I started my YouTube channel, but I was probably editing like 5 years before then, before I was on the YouTube platform.
How did you get into editing?
Honestly, it was just me, probably like, I don't know, 11, 12 years old on my family computer. And well, I guess let me start with I was really big in video games when I was younger. So like early 12 to 14 or something like that. And my favorite game back then was Kingdom Hearts. So being such a fan of that game, I wanted to consume, more Kingdom Hearts content. And so that was back then when I discovered the internet and YouTube, and I was seeing that people were cutting clips from this video game with music, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like so cool. Like, how are they even doing this? And I know I discovered that I had like Windows Movie Maker on our family computer at home, and so I didn't know how to get like clips or anything yet though, so like just playing around with it. You know how like on the old computers there's like sample video and like sample music? It's like stock footage of like animals or something. So in the Windows Movie Maker, I would be taking this like sample stock footage that was already on the computer and editing it with just random sample music that was also on the computer. So that was like my introduction to it. And then eventually I kind of figured out how to like, rip video clips from YouTube, and I was cutting so like Kingdom Hearts clips with music. And that's just kind of where it started. I just loved putting, visuals with music. So that was the very early days of me starting editing in Windows Movie Maker.
It's like everyone started with Windows Movie Maker so far. Most
Yeah.
persons I know were like, oh yeah, I started with Windows Movie Maker, and I was like, yeah, I did that too. It's very
Yeah,
interesting.
it's a great introduction
Oh
program.
yeah,
How was
that.
what?
How was it for you to starting with it? Did you got any help from your parents or something like that, or was it just like, okay, I try to play around and figure it out myself?
I mean, I was very young when I was starting it, and my parents didn't really help me. I mean, they're not like super tech savvy, but they were very supportive of me. Like, I would love to like cut things and then like share it with my family, and then, they would share it with other family. And sometimes, if we ever did like, if my dad ever recorded any like home videos and
Mm.
stuff, when me and my brother were taking Taekwondo, my dad would record videos of us, and I would take that footage and cut it into something in Windows Movie Maker. So yeah, just me being obsessed with editing already at a very early age. And I think getting that, support from my parents, who were
Mm.
very enthusiastic and encouraging of my hobby, that really motivated me to want to continue doing it.
Yeah, I watched also some older videos, and you did hundreds of videos over the time.
Oh my God, has it been hundreds?
Oh, I checked. It was like on YouTube you have over 200 videos.
Oh my God.
Well, I think there's also some collabs.
Still, wow.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That just shows like how much time I've spent on the computer all my life.
I think many of us did that. There are so many videos, but is there one particular where we say like, okay, that's my baby. That's one of the videos I'm most proud of, or spend a lot of time to make it.
That's really difficult because I feel like, with each video, and every year I get better and I see improvements. So it's hard to really pick a favorite. Like, I don't want to like, of course I'm leaning into like my most recent stuff because I'm like, this is what I'm really proud of because I see such huge improvements in my work. I guess right now, just thinking Void Eternal, I feel like is one of my favorite videos that I've made so far. Like, it wasn't one of my most popular videos, but I really got to experiment with a lot of things in that one, visuals and like color correction. And so that's one that I'm, kind of most proud of right now that I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna top that. But yeah.
Void Eternal was very, very popular also, in my opinion, because it won also some contests, if I'm not wrong. The Viewer Choice Awards
Yeah.
on AMV Org.
And it got first place in Japan Expo.
Yeah, and that too. Yeah, that's also a very big one.
But it wasn't as popular as like my Toxic video, which I'm kind of over now because it went super viral.
So it's like, oh gosh, not Toxic again, or something like that.
Exactly. I was really happy about it when I made it, but now it's like the only thing I see on my YouTube channel is like more comments on Toxic. And it's like, why? I'm tired of it. Look at my other stuff.
Oh, yeah. Can you tell how you approach on this video project together? Is there some process you have? Or is it like, okay, I have in my head and let's start it?
Yeah, maybe this is a more embarrassing answer, but like with a lot of like my bigger projects, I feel like they kind of start somewhere that's like personal to me. So of course it's like I don't have an exact idea in my head when I'm starting these things. Usually, like with Void Eternal, I knew about the source and I knew I wanted to make something that was, what do you call this, like vaporwave kind of theme. Because I'd seen a couple of like other videos that were doing that and it was kind of like a trend that was coming back. You know, everybody's obsessed with like the 80s right now and the retro kind of look. So I knew I wanted to make something visually that looked like that. And I still want to get into your question about like, you know, how I plan for videos. So I just want to answer it maybe a little bit more generalized. Like, how would you put that together?
So you have this big project like that one, but Toxic, you said also you don't like to talk about it, but it was also a video you made some tutorials about. So you had also a thought process, I think, behind it. Other way it would be so easily to talk about it, like the color correction, how you want to fit it in and change the stuff you had. Also the story was something different that the show was really about, because the show is about gambling and not about being a witch and killing people.
Yes. So actually, starting Toxic was actually a lot of fun for me because it was just something that just kind of came about naturally. Like, I knew I wanted to edit something. I think I was already planning on that I wanted to make a video for Japan Expo. And usually like right after we have like our Souls team I'm usually feeling like inspired and I'm like, ooh, I want to get back into like editing and stuff again. And I want to make something bigger, you know, and spend more time on it. So that's kind of like how Toxic came about. The benefit with this one is I had actually watched the anime, which is very rare for me because I very rarely watch the sources that I'm using.
Oh.
So I think that also helped me a lot with this one because I actually knew what was available completely. And I heard this song and I knew the footage and I was like, I don't know, it just really came together. I've been like really, I don't know, I really like this theme of like witches and things like that, just like really dark. Like I'm such like a horror buff and I really wanted to put that into a video. I was like, I want to put these really scary satanic kind of symbolism in a video because I'm like, I think it's interesting. So maybe other people think it's interesting too. And I've been watching a lot of horror movies about that. And also this was like my first time in an AMV that I was really focusing on the color correction and building these scenes, which was super fun for me. I just wanted it to look like I've never been really strong with like motion graphics or things like that, but I think I have a really good eye for like visuals and colors. So that was my focus on this. I just wanted every scene to just look and feel more cinematic and not just feel like the flat footage that was pulled from the anime directly. I like to work and manipulate each scene so that it just feels like you're watching a completely different show. And then that's why the majority of the comments I'll get on this video is like, oh my God, like, what is, like, I thought this anime was about gambling. Like, you made like a whole different show. And oh my God, I thought there was like a season 3 for this. And real, like, I don't like when you're able to see like the changes I did. Like, they shouldn't be that obvious. I want them to actually look natural and realistic. So.
Yeah, I like such videos. Maybe you know also the video Steel Fenders from Umika?
I know Umika. Which one was that one?
Steel Fenders with Fate series where she changed the complete story.
Yes, of
And
course.
this one was also one where I start loving to see the footage, but in a different way, to show a new story.
Exactly.
And so this was also the point where I said, like, oh, I love Toxic because it was something different, but it was also feeling like it was natural. And I think also the music was very, very fitting.
Yeah, I'm really proud of that one. It just came together so naturally. It didn't even feel like I didn't even really plan for it because it just came together so perfectly on its own.
So it was like, okay, I have this idea. I want to use stuff like, want to use this dark theme and this song and this anime because I know it already that well. And then you started and building up this stuff. And I think later you made the color correction so it was more all fitting together.
And I'm all about like the shock value too, which is something I've incorporated a lot more in my AMVs. I just like there to be kind of like this moment of like, oh my god,
like the shot or
yeah, like I don't think it was something anybody was expecting, especially if you've seen the anime and you're like, what?
Yeah.
I like violence and shocking things.
When I first time saw the video, was like, wait, what? And then, oh my god, I like
Yeah.
it. It was really like so.
I think everybody secretly likes, the dark.
Oh, I'm also a person who likes horror AMVs. I think you use After Effects for sure, but also Vegas, or which programs?
Oh no, I've transitioned out of Vegas probably years ago.
Okay.
When I'm starting a project, I will start it in Premiere Pro and I will literally lay out all of my scene selection and raw clips before I do any visual effects because I'm like, I want to lay out the entire story of what I'm going to do before I go into After Effects and start, making putting a lot of work and effort into doing these visual effects and then like getting to the end of it and being like, oh, the storyline doesn't make sense anymore. It's harder to switch things around, and because like creating that storyline is really important to me, so I want to make sure that all my raw clips line up with what I'm trying to do before I go in and make those visuals. So once I have all the raw scene selection done, then I will, using the dynamic link between those two Adobe products, start piece by piece creating those visual effects in After Effects.
Yeah, it's like how it's built for the basic editing in Premiere, to also set up the synchro and to see where the cuts be, because it's much easier because of the wave and all the stuff. Replay it, that's much easier. And then if you have all set up, it's easy to just do the rest in After Effects, I think. With After Effects, there's also one thing I see online is like when new people come in, they say, oh yeah, you should start with After Effects and recommend it. And what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I had just listened to your previous podcast episode when you asked this question, and I think very similar opinions. Most people know that like it's not an editing software. It's for, creating visual effect. I don't know who's telling people to edit in After Effects, but it's not an editing software.
You don't want to believe how many people I see on Reddit, for example, who say, yo, start with After Effects, and I'm sitting there like, don't do that, no.
I think those are different kind of editors though.
Yeah.
Like I feel like those are going to be like the kind of trendy editors who just want to make those like visual effects, but they're not like focusing on like a linear story. They just want to, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with this if you're just someone who wants to focus on making cool visuals and motion graphics and things like that, then of course After Effects is where you're going to go for that. But if you're someone who's more interested in creating like a linear story and like actually video editing, then you got to work it out in Premiere.
I personally I'm not a huge fan of these short edits, but I'm also a person who says, okay, if it's the thing you want to do it.
Everybody has their passions, and some people are more into visual effects than like story editing.
For me, it's like, I think there's also the possibility to combine these two words. Like, you have also stunning effects in your videos, but they are more fitting. And I think for me, effects are not like there to overshine the rest of the video or the scene. It should work more like together to build something up.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of something that I'm always telling myself too. Like, my visual effects should always be justified with like the story I'm trying to tell. I'm never just going to be doing motion graphics and visuals just for like eye candy, if that makes sense. Like, I want it to build into my story. I want it to
support more likely the scene.
Yeah, I want it to support my story, and yeah, it's not just like eye candy stuff, which sometimes I get so jealous of like people who can do these like amazing visuals and motion graphics and things like that. And I like look at these other AMVs and I'm like, I can't make things like that. Like I wish I could. And then I just kind of have to accept, that this is my personal style. This is like, what I've perfected personally, and like this is what works for me, and that's just are for the story and not so much the eye candy.
Is there really a style where you say, okay, I prefer the style of video, or is it also saying that I'm not a fan of making like a drama video?
Yeah, like I would even point out like what comes top of mind. The editor and my friend, I don't know how to pronounce her username, Lokitlu, or her name's Kara. But, she's just always has these very fantastic visuals and graphics. And I will look at her work and I'm like, this is amazing. And I wish I could do this. And I enjoy watching videos like that incorporate that. And also, like the editor, Furry, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Love the visuals. And I don't know, like he can do some really cool things. And I will see those videos and I love watching them. But I know that I can't recreate those kind of visuals. And yeah, I don't know. It's not my style or capability of creating, but I love watching those kind of videos. But I like videos with stories too. Like I still like watching videos with stories, like a strong story. Cause, okay, I know I'm going on a tangent here, but I'm like, it's really hard for me to feel invested in an AMV if it doesn't have like some kind of story to go along with it. Like when they just are focusing too much on just the visuals and the effects, then I kind of lose interest.
It's more like you see it and in your head you have already that there's something missing. So
yeah,
I'm also a person who is more likely, I want something that can hook me up and don't lose me, and most likely it's something to go on and just have something like a story, or need something to be that I get invested and want to know what's happening in the end.
Precisely, yeah.
At the beginning of all your editing, was there also something where you say, okay, that was very difficult for you to master, where you nowadays say, okay, I'm feeling fine with it? Is there something in particular where you say, oh, I needed a long time to learn this skill, like color correction or something like cutting or syncing, for example?
Yeah, I think because I've been editing for so long, those improvements have come so gradually. But I think if I had to like pinpoint one hurdle that I've had to overcome through my editing, which I'm sure this is probably a lot of people's answer, it was, learning After Effects. Because for me, back in the day before I used it, when I was still just using Sony Vegas, After Effects was like this really daunting software. And it's like I had it, I'd open it up, and I would have no idea how to use it, no idea what to do with it. And I would say, also this is just a tip with anybody learning After Effects, it's really hard to open the software and you don't understand what it does. So like you don't know what you can create if you don't know what tools are available to you through that software. So with me, I didn't get comfortable in that software until another editor online who was my friend at the time, literally walked me through the software. I don't know if you remember when AMV News did those contests, the Level Up, where they would pair like a novice editor with a pro editor.
Oh, I remember that.
It was a really good contest because it allowed you to learn from someone who was more skilled than you. And so it was through that contest that I got paired up with, what they call, quote, pro editor, who taught me After Effects. And that really finally then opened my eyes to, oh, these are the tools that are available in this software. And just knowing what you can do is then when you can start creatively thinking about now the visuals that you can create through this software. So that was a hurdle for me, was finally just being able to learn that software, and that was through somebody else. But nowadays, like, you can do it through YouTube tutorials. I think those are just as good. So over the years, I've just been improving, what I can do in After Effects and through watching tutorials. And if I know there's something specific that I want to create for a video, I can look it up online, like a tutorial, and I'm learning and improving that way. But yeah, that was kind of a big step for me, I think, in my AMV editing career.
I can understand that. I think it's for most people, newer programs or such big programs like After Effects, they can be a bit stunning, or if you have problem like, okay, what's going on? It's so hard to understand. With video tutorials, I'm most likely one person who says search for video tutorials, but most likely search for video tutorials, not just like in particular AMVs, but more likely
Yeah.
from Adobe, where they're explaining the tools or something like that, because I think it's more like better to understand the general what the tool does and not like how someone uses the tool.
Exactly. Yes, precisely. Like, I think it's definitely more beneficial to learn those super basics of the software rather than just diving right into how to do this and that in After Effects. Like, rather than looking into something so specific, an effect you can do there, I think learn the basics first of the software and the tools.
I'm a person, I didn't use After Effects that much. I was most likely also in the earlier years where I wanted to try After Effects, and was most likely, yeah, it's too much for me at the beginning. And later it was like, I don't want to use it because I want to try to get the most out of the editing software. Because I was like impressed by Nostromo FX. He does all his work in Premiere. It was so interesting to see that what he could do only in Premiere. So that was one thing I wanted just to understand and learn only the basic editing program to get the full
Yeah, and
potential and
that's
then go
amazing.
up.
I think he's a really good example too of like when you perfect like just the basics of editing, like it really allows you like with him to focus on like sync
Yeah.
and the flow of the video. And I think that's what made his work so unique and like eye-catching because you were literally just focusing on how well everything was synced up with the music and like you could feel his edits. And that's how it's different from like the type of editing we do with like After Effects and all the visuals and
Yeah.
stuff.
One thing you also mentioned is like some other peoples you look up also.
Mm-hmm.
So are there some particular editors where you say, okay, I look at the beginning up to them or still look up to them and think like they are such great personalities and such great editors to get some inspiration also from?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I feel like most of my growth through editing has been because of, other people who I've interacted with who have inspired me and, like, through watching their work. I will say that, like, as I've gotten older, grown out of the community a little bit, I'm more just kind of editing solo, but definitely back in the day, I had inspirations and people who helped me grow. Like, like I mentioned with the Level Up contest, that was an editor who I had really looked up to at the time. I think his username was called Overture, something like that. He's not really around anymore, but that was someone who was, I felt was very innovative at the time and was doing a lot of cool things. And then another editor who's not really around anymore, who had a huge influence on me was Gore's AMV. Loved his work, and I still will go back and look at his old videos and kind of just reference, and just look at what made them so special. And I still try to find ways of how I can kind of capture that uniqueness and see how I can incorporate it into my own work, because for me back then just his work was just always so incredibly just stunning to me, and he was a huge influence on my work today still. But other editors I guess today who are inspiring me, Kara Lokitlu, I love her work. She's, when I see her stuff, it always really inspires me. And just sometimes, just random things that I'll see, like I love going through whenever there's an IC for an AMV. I love just watching everybody's videos for those because I'll pull out little bits and pieces of things that will inspire me. Like I love how they did scene selection for this part, or I love the uniqueness of their sync here, or a cool visual effect that they were incorporating. So I'm always pulling inspiration just from other editors that I may not even know. So just watching other people's AMVs in general inspire my videos.
Yeah, that's I think also a great part of this hobby. So you learn something from that, or think like, oh yeah, that's something that's very interesting. And I am a person who says like, okay, how is it done? And then I try to understand what's going on and what was there, and to learn from that also.
Yeah.
It's always a great thing. So I always watch stuff and be like, oh yeah, that's fantastic, and I could use something similar in in my
Mm-hmm.
new video or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So being part of the community is just always really helpful and improving. Just being inspired by everybody else's work and what they're doing. We're all growing from that.
It's always a thing. I think there's no point where someone can say, okay, I'm on the top, I can't learn anything, or there's not something new for me. I think there's always something that can
No,
be,
absolutely
because the
not.
technology also evolves. So
Yeah, I mean, I can watch a raw AMV and still find things about it that inspire me and that I want to incorporate in my own videos. I'm not just looking at like quote unquote famous editors and what they're making. Like I'm watching like random AMVs on YouTube and I'm like, I like how they did that and I'm going to pull something from that that I can incorporate into my work as well. So, definitely just looking out at everybody's work.
that's a good thing. Is there something important for you about this hobby, about the community or the editing? Is it something where I say, okay, that's for me like the most important part? For me, it's like I want to create something and maybe entertain some people and to just create something new. That's for me like the
Yeah.
special thing, and to have all the people be and can talk about it.
Yeah. In my mind, for me, it's always been about I want to create something that's gonna cause an emotional reaction within somebody when they watch my work because that's how I like to feel when I'm watching a video. I like for it to spark something in me emotionally where I feel somewhat invested and involved in the video. So that's what's always really important to me with my work is I want to create something that has a point. It makes sense. And whether that emotion is, happiness or sadness or darkness or fear, I want to incorporate some kind of emotional value into my work because I feel like that's something that you're going to feel physically when viewing it. And that's what's maybe going to bring you back. Like, I don't know if it's true, but I like to feel like my work has some sense of like rewatch value because you're not just going back to it to analyze, how good it looked, but just also how it made you feel. And I want to create something that makes people feel something, even if it's not a good something. I want it to make you feel something. Like, if it's goosebumps, like I want to create those reactions. So when I'm doing scene selection, I'm trying to find those scenes that are going to make people, I don't know, get that little bit of like adrenaline or something inside of them and be like, whoa, I feel something with this. Like, what is that? This is cool. And it's making me feel things.
Yeah, that's also for many people. I think there are some people out there. They think like, okay, I want to give a feeling, to maybe give my own feelings into the video and let other people feel the same way about a certain song or like about an anime, which is like really a pinpoint of my life because it changed something in myself to yeah, in a certain way. So maybe I want to
Yeah.
also let the other people understand that and get also some maybe a change in their life. And I know some people which are saying like, I the biggest thing they had was like when someone say to them that it was so great to watch the videos and it changed something for them, because most of the time they feel sad or depressed a bit, and after watching the videos they thought they feel something like a happiness in themselves. And for that person it was
Yeah,
like,
that's
it was
really.
the he said it was the best moment to hear that from a person, to say this video changed something in me, in myself. And he said if 1 million people said it was shit, but this one person, it changed something for them, he thought it was the greatest thing then, and it was worth to make the video.
Yeah, that's super touching.
Yeah.
Like, I totally agree. Like, it's always those like that one comment that like really felt a connection to your work and it just kind of drowns out, all your other motivations for creating that work. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm looking to heal people with my
No, no.
videos, but if I can create something that's an escape, something that distracts you
Yeah.
from the outside world for like 2 to 3 minutes, then, that's kind of my goal. Like,
I mostly made some disturbing and crazy stuff, so I was more likely. I hope I don't scare the people, just
yeah.
to show something different and maybe to get them away from what's going on in the world. That's also...
Yeah, for me, it's about the entertainment.
Yeah.
I want to entertain. I want to distract, pull you away from the world. I want you to feel something, for a minute.
That's not about the stuff that's going around you, but just what you saw.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's always a good thing.
Because that's what I want to see in an AMV. That's what I like to see. So I'm just making what I want to see.
If someone would come up to you and ask you, I want to start editing, but I don't know where to start or what I should do, what would you say them for, let's say, AMVs?
Yeah, I would say just start. I would ask them, like, what's your favorite source? What's something that you've seen that inspires you and you want to create content from this source? And I would say just put it together. Find your favorite song, find your favorite video source, and start cutting it together. And if this person is like super beginner, of course I would point them into, learning the basics of the software that they're using first and learning about that. Or, I don't even know if that's necessary, because I feel like for so many of us, when we started, we didn't watch tutorials that taught us how to do something. We just kind of jumped in and did it. So that's why I just think, honestly, just start. Like, just do it. Just start putting things together. And that's how you're going to get better, is just by constantly creating and constantly practicing your craft.
Okay. If someone wants to say, okay, I want to start as professionally in this way, what would you tell them?
Professionally, I would suggest, start building up a portfolio. I'm assuming if this person wants to get into this professionally, they've already somewhat creating content on their own. And I would say, just start taking anything that you've created already and start putting together a portfolio that shows off your skills and your work and what you're doing. And like when you're applying to jobs, professionally, or trying to freelance or get gigs or whatever, show off that portfolio, of course. But
Yeah.
It's all about the portfolio, honestly. That's how I've gotten a lot of my work.
That is also, you do that for a living.
Yes.
So you're also a professional editor. I must say, I don't know many professional editors or which do AMVs this time, because I know some people who did AMVs and then got into professional editing and stopped with AMVs because they are at the point where I say, okay, I'm editing at work like 8 hours and then I get home and should edit also. They can't do it and say, okay, I need time between that. The interesting question for me is like that, how do you do that to separate this stuff?
That's definitely been a balance for me, because if I'm talking about I've been editing since I was like in high school and college and things like that. And then when I transitioned into working professionally as an editor, because I'm like, this is the only thing in life that I enjoy doing, that I love doing, and that I feel like honestly pretty good at. So when I did start transitioning into working as an editor professionally, there was that time period where I did kind of stop making AMVs for a while, because I would feel very drained from the work I was doing. Like, I'm editing all day and then I'm going to come home and make more videos, like you said. So there was a time period. I think it's about separating the work. I don't know. I found a good balance again now, where the AMVs have become like a hobby for me again. It's really different from like what I'm editing for work. Like, what I'm editing for work is usually going to be very, kind of like commercial, corporate, kind of not super flashy, fun kind of stuff. But AMVs allow me to like experiment with different types of editing a little bit. And so that's kind of where the fun variety of it comes in, where I can feel like I can do this still on the side. But it's interesting to me that you point out that you don't know too many AMV editors who also edit professionally. Like, I'd say like a lot of the people in Soul's team in the AMV group that I'm a part of, a lot of them are also professional editors who also do AMVs kind of on the side. But yeah, I do notice how people who are maybe working professionally are a little bit more inactive on the AMV scene.
I need to say, I know, for example, 2 people right now, or 3 people who went professional and before did AMVs and then stopped.
It always shocks me that like we can have all these AMV editors and they're not doing this professionally. I'm like, why, you're so good, like you have a skill and you could be making money with this, like you could. But maybe some people don't want to cross that line between like hobby and doing it for work. See, for me the line is, I'm never going to do AMVs for work. Like, I get DMs and things all the time of people like, can you make an AMV with my music or whatever? And I'll pay you blah, blah, blah. I always say no to those kind of things because I don't want to blur that line. I will not feel inspired to make an AMV for work. So that's where I draw the line. And I think that's where it feels different for me. When I'm making AMVs, it is literally just for myself. And it is nothing to do with like the business side of it.
For me, it was like, I was thinking about doing professional, so I went to university and did also studying media technology and wanted to go in this part of the industry, but I realized editing was like the part where I can just relax. For me, it's like I need this hobby to be the escape from the world. And now I'm a software developer, and for me it's like, okay, I wanted to create something, but now I do it in a different way. So
yeah, and I totally agree with that. I think that's just kind of how it works for some people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's about listening to yourself and like what you want. For me, I'm just literally addicted to editing. Like, it's the only thing I want to do all day, 7 days a week, 24/7. Like, editing is literally everything to me. So it's like having you do it for work and as a hobby, like it just doesn't even faze me because I love it so much.
Like you are saying, okay, I like my editing as a job and do it also as my hobby to get away from all this. The good thing is, I think about also editing is like, you do it for commercial, it's a totally different field. Because
it's still fun though for me.
Yeah, it's something different because you don't have like, oh, I need to sync it up and make something fancy, because no, you have like the cameras and the cuts and put it together to make it like a story, and it's totally different. Yeah, I understand that. Maybe it would help me to understand that, but yeah, maybe it's better like it's now.
Yeah, I think, if it works better for you to separate it, then that's what you got to do.
Yeah, I think so. You also told me about Soul's team. You are a member. The interesting thing is like, Soul's team is most likely people from Europe, if I'm not wrong. You said like from France, where I think are many people, in Spain.
Yeah.
So
they started out majority as a French group. Originally, they were just a French AMV group.
Yeah, I remember times when Soul's team were first time popping up, and it was like, for me, okay. And the very interesting question for me is like, how did you get into Soul's team? How is it also for you to be a part of this group? Because like we have the problem now, we have a 9 hours difference with the other people's is also a thing.
Yeah, so the leader of that group, I think, Soul's team has been around before I was even making AMVs probably. I mean, they were around, I don't even know when they started up, but originally I think they just kind of started out as like a group of friends who were probably like friends in real life, and they created this group and it grew into something more. And I think over time, the leader of the group, David, he wanted to make it more international. Like, he didn't want it to just be a French AMV group anymore. And I think at the time when he approached me about joining the group, I think he was familiar with my work. I mean, I participated in a lot of the Souls team ICs that they would host back in the day and still do today. And I think they kind of got to know my work through that. And once they started thinking about expanding, so I was actually one of the first non-French speaking people to join the group. So that was kind of fun. And I got to join with my best AMV friend, Luna, who was also, but she's French. But so.
Did it change something for you, or was very special for you?
It did feel special to me because it was like, I always knew about this group. Like, when I started AMV editing, it was like, there was always this kind of prestige around them. I mean, anyone who has been in the AMV community for a long time and you look up to like those AMV groups and you're like, oh my God, like how do people get into those? Like, they're so cool. And you just feel like if you're in that group, like you've made it or something. And it's so crazy because like we're talking about AMVs here, but there was like a sense of kind of prestige around it. And so to be approached to like join their group, it did feel really special, and it inspired me to want to kind of start putting out more work and putting out work that was of a quality that I was really proud of and put their name behind it. Definitely, it gave me a little bit of drive to like, I want to make more stuff and I want to, look good for my group. Also, it's just a really good team. Like, I'd been in other AMV groups before this one, and this was just the most chill. Like, this was just a really good group for me, and I just felt very accepted. I don't know, it was just a good place.
Yeah, it's very, it's for me it's a bit interesting because I was never invested in groups or something like that. I was most of the time the lone wolf in the pack of all the editors, and I was always curious about this group stuff. I was saying, okay, yeah, why a group? But yeah, it can be really like, oh, to be motivated to say, okay, I'm now in this group. I want to don't let the people down and maybe to push myself a bit more. That's is also very interesting to see it like that.
Yeah, and I just kind of think it makes you feel like you have a sense of belonging somewhere. Like, I've done the lone wolf thing where I've kind of just been, mostly a solo editor, and I still feel like that in a sense. Like, I still feel like I'm very much editing alone, but just having this kind of like this backdrop and this support of a group behind me that I know that if I do ever need help or if I need to reach out to people that I trust can look at my work and give me feedback that I know is going to be an improvement to what I'm working on. That's, I think, very beneficial of being part of a group.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's also interesting. So that's what also tell newer people when they start and don't know what to do and how to improve. I most likely say, okay, maybe join a Discord group and talk with the people about it, more likely, just instead of just posting it and then hope someone says something about it. Just approach people, talk with them about the stuff, get more an understanding of all.
Yeah, and I would absolutely suggest that also to like new people entering the AMV space. Like, connect with other people in the community, even if they're just, also new editors like yourself. Because I feel like it's through those connections and through those friendships that then you're getting more eyes on your videos. And like, that's how you're going to grow and improve, is kind of like through sharing that work. And that's how you're kind of going to build almost like this network of like people consuming your content. And it's like through those connections is how you're going to be able to like, build up your YouTube channel. Because, first it's just your friends watching it and then they're sharing it with their friends. So it's definitely, connect with other editors online if you're new to this community.
And also, I think if you are connected with only new people, it can work greatly because some persons have a better feeling for that, and so each person can help each other by saying, okay, you make some great cuts, and so how you approach it, how do you look at it, and the person says, yeah, I'm just using the waveform from the audio or something like that, can also help very, very well, I think. So we have like this, you're in Soul's team, you have seen a lot of things, and you're also a long time editor. And I think you also saw an evolvement in AMVs from like the first times where like just raw editing in Premiere or Vegas, for example, and now we came to a point where it's more visual effects and also the short edits. Where do you think, like, can AMVs be in a few years, or is there always a part that is this, like a group stays the same, or do you think it's some styles of videos will go away shortly?
Yeah, that's a really good question because, like, I hear a lot of different opinions on this. Like, I have a friend who's come to me and, like, she'll talk about how she feels like the AMV community is just going to go away. Like, it's just going to die out. And I don't personally think that's true. Like, I don't think it's just going to go away. I think it's going to evolve into something really different, maybe, to how it is today. I mean, just like how it was different when I first started. You know, it's kind of really grown into its own thing. And I don't think that's ever going to stop, you know. maybe one day it'll move away from the YouTube platform. I think right now we're very much, sharing our work on YouTube, but, maybe there's a younger generation of people who are, I don't even know if this exists because I don't explore these platforms, but maybe they're like making AMVs for TikTok or Instagram or things like that. I think, okay, yeah. So I think that's where the new community is going to be at. And, I think I can't ever see myself just like stopping completely. I think AMVs are always going to kind of be a part of my life, and it's something I'll just kind of pick up here and there, for fun, because this is what I enjoy doing and I enjoy sharing my work. But yeah, I don't ever think it's just going to go away. It's just going to evolve into something else, and either we grow with it or, we move on with our lives. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's also something that happens because over the years, I started in 2004 and I saw a lot of changes in all the time. But I think also this kind of basic editing, like the story editing that more people say, are still there.
Yeah.
There are also some newer people. I see people joining some Discords and starting to do also these story AMVs, or like I call them now, like you do and I do. There are still coming new people with like at age of 14, 15 who wants to start also this genre.
Yeah.
But also I see a lot of people who using now Instagram or TikTok to do these short edits. That's more likely where this come from, these short edits with the 30 seconds, because TikTok and Instagram had like a limitation of how long a video can be. So that was the place where it come from. I think it's a hobby that will never die out. Really,
Yeah.
because
I agree.
until we don't listen to music and enemies got banned from the US or something like
Yeah.
that. But then I think there's also something different and I was am a person who is a bit older. In my time, I stopped at some point with editing, but now I'm back again, and so I can't let it go in some way because I grew with it up, and it changed a lot in my life for myself, how I approach things, how I see things. So I can't really get away from it. So I think also I will stay in the community and do editings or do this podcast to share something with the community and be still a part of it.
I agree. That's amazing. Yeah. I think, once you start AMVs, it always will be a part of you in some way.
Yeah.
And it'll always be something you'll be able to look back on as, content that you created, that you shared, and, it was really personal to you. And I just think that's something that's just really beautiful about editing AMVs. It's not just creating anime music videos. Like it's still a creative process of creative content, and I think there's value in that, and it's a skill, and I think that's worth, talking about and sharing. It's pretty amazing what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, we take something from already existing like an anime, but we try to create something different. Use it as some people like a collage, whereas they take pictures and make a new picture out of it. It's like the same with
Yeah.
AMVs. We take something and want to create something new
Exactly.
to share a different emotion, to give a new experience to people and to entertain the people.
I love that example.
And so I think we come to an end here. Thank you very much for being my guest today. It was a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you.
And so I wish you all the best in the future. I hope we talk maybe someday again.
Yes, absolutely.
And I hope all the listeners out there had some entertaining and informative time with our podcast today and will coming back for the next episode. So, see ya.